It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
Hey everyone. So I'd like to start out this video just by saying that I wouldn't typically choose to take my private life and make it public, especially not on a forum like TikTok, for entertainment's sake. However, 6 months ago, Marissa Henderson decided to take some elements of her private life and make it public, and drug me and people I love and care about into it. So to be clear, 6 months ago, Marissa Henderson took to TikTok saying that she was cornered in her driveway by her husband's mistress, and the mistress was telling her that she was pregnant. I am that mistress, and I am pregnant with her husband's child. I'm coming on here because I think it's important to tell the truth, and a lot of what she said just was her perspective largely, but a lot of it was skewed, a lot of things were left out, and some things just weren't true. So I'll be doing a series of videos in which I look back, give some context, give some of my own just perspective on the entire situation. I think it's really important through all of this to remember that love is messy and it's hard and life is hard, and that you're not going to find any villains or angels in this story. You're not going to find good guys and bad guys or black and white. Life is a whole lot of shades of gray, and I can tell you that nothing that I ever did or that her husband ever did was with malice or hurt or the intention to hurt. Hey everyone. So for those of you who didn't see my other video, this is going to be the first video in a series where I give my perspective on being a pregnant mistress, basically. These videos are in response to a series of videos done by somebody else who was the wife of the man that I got pregnant by. So this first video, I just want to go ahead and give some background story about my life a little bit and how mine and Bill's relationship started, and, you know, kind of what the history is there, just to kind of give everybody a little bit of perspective. So first, before I say any of that, I'd like to say that I'm not here to change everybody's mind about, infidelity or, whether or not, and I'm certainly not here to advocate getting involved with somebody who's married. I definitely don't recommend that if, you can avoid it. But I also do want to kind of remind everybody, like, we're all human and we all are imperfect, and I just think it's really important to be kind and gentle with each other. I also think it's important that to get all sides of the story out there. I wouldn't typically choose to share it, but since it was already kind of shared for me, I decided to put my side out there. So let's get into it. So Bill and I met when I was 24 and he was 26. So to kind of put that in context, I'm 37 now and he will be 39 next month. So we've known each other for a really long time. We met and we started dating. We hit it off right away. We were obviously a lot younger, but we, kind of fell in love really quickly. A lot of life stuff happened, and we ended up kind of dating on and off for the next couple of years. And then we had a long distance relationship when he and Marissa met. I was actually in prison. And no, I didn't do anything violent or anything like that. And I will go into like kind of my prison experience in later videos. But so anyway, I was in prison when he and Marissa met. And so, of course, he ended things with me, and he was with her, and they were married. And so I moved on with my life. I got out of prison, rebuilt my life, that kind of thing. And then, Bill reached out to me about a year ago now, and we started to talk, and I realized for me, there was still a lot of feelings there, and I believe that's, what he realized too. He and I have always had a very deep connection, and I think that, in all this, it's really important to remember that I never went into this with the intention of hurting anybody. And honestly, initially, I had no plans of entering into a relationship with him. One thing that has always been really special about our relationship is we were always really good friends, as well as lovers. So I think that makes any breakup really hard, and kind of separating yourself from the person difficult. I'm not going to sit here and justify, what I did or what happened, because there really isn't any justification for it. However, I will say that when Bill and I started spending time together, he was very, very lonely. And I offered him friendship, somebody to talk to, and it went from there. I don't think that people ever, who end up in this kind of situation ever enter into it with these, ill intentions. And I won't say that I went into this looking to be some sort of homewrecker or with this insane jealousy and wanting to take over her life or something, because that's just simply not true. It just doesn't work that way. And like I said before, love is hard and it's messy, and sometimes things happen and we just kind of have to make the best of them. But in no way am I perfect. In no way have I made perfect choices in my life or in this situation. However, I never wanted to intentionally hurt anybody. So I think that's really important to remember. That's part one of the saga, and the next video I'm just going to cover kind of how I came to quote unquote corner her in her driveway, which is not really what happened, but I understand that that's how she felt. But and kind of where things went from there.
Hey everyone, this is Bill Turris. You guys know me better as Marissa Henderson's husband. Decided to come on here and tell my side of kind of what's led us up to this point. So, having already read some of the comments, some things that I'll just kind of head off at the pass now is what you're not going to hear from me is me ever saying that me having an affair wasn't my fault or that it wasn't wrong, because it was. However, in that, it's easy to place blame when you've only heard half of the story, when the other person hasn't told any of their shortcomings, how they've had an affair, how they've essentially jerked around my son, who's 8, and in all of this, frankly, is the only truly innocent party in all of this. And that's really what spurred me to make these videos, because for months now, Marissa has gone on here and talked about how she desperately wanted a relationship with him. She's very good at getting people on her side. And I don't believe, or I don't blame anybody for being on her side. Having heard her side of all this, and only her side, there's no reason for you guys not to believe what she said. Some of it is totally true. I had an affair. But there's just a lot of details that have been left out. And like I said, what I did wasn't right. It doesn't excuse her having an affair. It doesn't excuse me doing it. But it's easy to kind of paint somebody as a bad guy and then vaguely make comments like, well, of course I wasn't perfect, because nobody is. And I also understand, with primarily women viewing her videos, that a lot of people can put themselves in her shoes, and feel that way. So going forward, probably tomorrow, I'm gonna first just tell the backstory of kind of what led us up to me reaching out to Ashley, and kind of going down that road. Frankly, I didn't want to be on this app telling my side of the story. I did request that Marissa just take down the videos and kind of move on. That was rejected, which is entirely her right, but it's my right to be able to add additional context to the story. So, like I said, all I'm going to do is tomorrow, I'm going to start out and just give a brief, 20,000 foot view of probably 3 years leading up to everything. And then from there, I'll dive into more details and parts that are more for Ashley to tell. She'll hop on and continue. And I also understand that no matter what I say, there are people who already have their minds made up, and that's okay. I'm not innocent in all this. Ashley's not innocent in all this. My point in making this is to just say that Marissa's not innocent in all this either. And some people aren't going to want to hear that, but that's the truth. And just like she said that she wants to move on, I do as well. I frankly want to get the divorce done as quickly as possible, but that's not possible when the other person simply sticks their head in the sand and won't negotiate or won't come to the table to, be an adult. So, all right, I hope everybody has a great evening, and I look forward to telling the rest of my story.
Hey everyone, I hope everyone's having a good Monday. In this video, I'm going to address the driveway confrontation situation. It's going back 6 months to basically Marissa's initial video where she said she was confronted in her driveway by the mistress saying that she was pregnant. So I'm going to play, in a couple minutes, I'm going to play the audio recording I have of our conversation. It's only 3 minutes long, and I'll give you some sort of background and thoughts on what kind of led up to that and why I decided to do it and what I was hoping to accomplish. Before I get into that, though, I would like to address a few things. First, I want to say I'm not here looking to justify my actions or get any sympathy from anybody. There's only one person in this situation who's ever tried to distort the truth in order to get sympathy, and that person's not me. I understand that a lot of you are going to think that what I did and the choices that I made are bad, that I'm morally bad, and that I'm just an awful person. And that's okay. That's your right to have that opinion. Obviously, I'm more complex than just one choice or even a series of choices. But if you want to see me that way, that's absolutely fine by me. The reason why I'm doing these videos is because I want to tell the truth about what happened and the whole truth, not skew it to get sympathy. Or in all this, I'm not asking anybody to be gentle with me. And let's be honest, you guys haven't been gentle at all. I'm asking everybody to be gentle with each other. And just to explain that sometimes situations, almost all the time, situations are more complex than they look on the surface. Things aren't black and white. And the second thing I want to address is prison. First of all, Bill did not get me fresh out of prison or whatever. I got out in 2020. So I've been out for 4 years at this point. Well, over 4 years at this point. And rebuilt my life, etc. So, and then why I went to prison is, in the most simple terms, because of drug addiction. Obviously, it's more complicated than that, and I plan to do a whole series of videos about my entire experience with the legal system, addiction, recovery, etc. But that is not this, so let's get into it.
You're Marissa, right?
Yes.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's chilly out here. I didn't expect it to be quite so cold. We have kind of a private conversation we have to have. If you want to go inside, that's fine, or if you want to step in my car. I mean, it's just kind of weird. I know you don't know me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm guessing you don't want to. It's kind of weird, like, especially because you look really cold, but I promise I'm not here to, like, hurt you or anything like that.
Okay.
But I do have to tell you something.
Okay.
And I'm really sorry because I know this is going to hurt your feelings a lot, but I've been seeing Bill for a while.
Okay.
I have a long history with him. I've known him since I was like 24 or 25. So we started seeing each other like a month and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer. And I'm pregnant.
Okay.
And so, you know, this is, I know that this is hard for you and I'm sorry. But I mean, I'm sure you'll talk to Bill more about this, but yeah, that's pretty much what I came to tell you, and I love him.
Okay. I don't mean I don't really have anything to say.
Yeah, I expected as much, but like I said, I'm sorry. I mean, I can imagine, you know, your position, and it's not a fun one, so.
Yeah. What was your name again?
My name's actually
Cashapp. Well, I appreciate you telling me.
Yeah, I think that Phil wanted to break it to you, but I mean, we both know him really well, and it's hard for him, especially in emotional things like this. He doesn't want to hurt you, and you know, I don't want to hurt you either. Like I said, I don't know you, and you know, but.
Well, yeah, I'll talk to him.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure you will, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to move forward with being together.
I don't need her this morning.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I just wanted, you know, to kind of give you what I know, but I'm sure, you know, you guys will have a conversation and everything.
Okay, so that was the audio recording. I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to hear just because it was in my pocket and I was shivering because it was March and I was freezing. I mean, she was freezing too. She was in a sleeveless dress and flip-flops. I felt horrible. I mean, I felt horrible for a lot of reasons. But anyway, so to give you just some idea as to why I confronted her or whatever, why I approached her, there's a lot of reasons, but primarily because I felt like if I told her, she would hear it and she would listen to me. Obviously, I didn't want to be the mistress. And at the end of the day, it was selfish, but I didn't want to be the mistress. That's true. It was selfish and presumptuous. I thought that she didn't love him and that they weren't right together. More than anything, I was pregnant and there was no going back, only forward. Like I said, this offers no excuses or justifications, just the truth. My next video will kind of go into what happened right after she left, and it will also go into the whole panties, underwear thing that I did not leave on the couch, by the way, but it'll go into all that. So look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great day and be gentle with each other.
Hey guys, this is Bill again. So I got some feedback after yesterday. First of all, I'm going to try to not make this seem like a hostage video. I was a little worried yesterday about just coming off as glib. And so that's just not what I wanted. Obviously, Marissa's much more polished at this, a lot better at playing the victim than I am. But so anyway, I have seen the video. It doesn't surprise me. Obviously, it's hard to for any of us to take accountability in the roles that we've played in all this. She can say whatever she likes. I have a theory why she went private. I think it's because she didn't get that job that all of a sudden she didn't talk about it anymore, but that's just my theory. Anyway, so I want to get into, just go back in time, kind of tell you guys how me and Marissa met and just kind of leading into everything. So obviously, some of you guys probably know already that we met on Tinder and we started talking. Pretty standard, you know, and we went out on a few dates, and yeah, after a little bit, at one point we were essentially just dating. We had been seeing each other for a while, and then she was obviously more in my son's life, which was a help. So as we started dating more, she ended up wanting to move in, and that's when things got a little bit weird, because she's pretty good at putting people in positions where they're not really sure what to do. So it's not that I love Marissa at this point and everything, but I didn't think we were ready to move in yet. But it was told to me basically, hey, either I'm moving in or I'm not going to be around if I have to sign another lease. This is after us dating about 18 months, and obviously I loved her. I didn't want to lose her. She had already broken up with me once, probably a month into our relationship, and then, you know, after 2 or 3 weeks of just silence, started texting me again and said, hey, I'm sorry. Essentially, I had feelings and they scared me. So knowing that she could kind of just shut somebody out like that was a concern of mine. So she moved in, and things were going pretty well at first. She lost her job, which stunk. I don't think that even though she lost her job, I really don't feel like it was her fault. I kind of felt like she got a raw end of the stick on that deal. So I'm not here to say like everything that the other person's ever done is terrible, because that's not the case. One thing that's been asked numerous times is, why didn't you just leave? Just leave. And it's because I love Marissa, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to end our marriage. And so at that point, because she had been fired and there were some issues with her insurance, we decided to get married. We had been seeing each other probably 2.5 years at this point. So we got married because I'm retired from the Navy, and so I have insurance and that kind of stuff. I have a job as well, but it didn't cost me anything additional to put her on my insurance and that kind of stuff. And so we didn't tell anybody that we were married at the time. I got offered a job in Northern Virginia that essentially doubled my pay, so we took it. And then very shortly after that, I got fired. So I took the job in Northern Virginia. It was right around COVID time. 3 weeks into the job, I got canned. So at that point, we actually ended up moving in with her mom for about 6 months, 7 months, something like that. The day we were moving out there, I actually got offered a job here in Hampton Roads. So we knew we were going to be coming back. But it's really when things kind of went south. And like a lot of marriages, there was intimacy issues, but these weren't normal intimacy issues. There was always some problems there. And I know in America, for some reason, whenever you talk about that subject, everybody gets weird for some reason. But for whatever reason, I'm not a pushy person in that way. She always had issues starting, initiating, that kind of stuff. And so it was always weird because she had to drink, and it made me feel really off-put. And I get, like, people can say whatever and say, like, hey, it's all my fault. I get that. So at this point, we lived there for 7 months, and when we moved back to Hampton Roads, we weren't intimate once in the entire time we lived there, and I knew this is an issue. It was a huge issue for me, and so at that point, I really started really trying to push for couples counseling, and she just refused. She would not do couples counseling for anything that had to deal with that subject. Wouldn't do it. And so at that point, it was the never-ending moving goalposts of, if we do this, it'll solve the problem. So I'd do X, and things wouldn't change. Do Y, things wouldn't change. That went on for about a year. And then, of course, when things would get proposed, I was against them at that point, because it was just the newest line of the goalpost moving, and so that became an issue as well. So then at that point, obviously, things were kind of not going well. I was beginning to just feel more and more separated from this person, and there's mental health issues there as well, where there's a lot of gaslighting, where the house was constantly destroyed, and I already know the comment, well, why didn't you clean up? And I would have loved to, but that was an issue. So dishes would pile up, but if I cleaned them, I was taking her job, and so that was going to be a fight. The reason why Ashley cleaned the house when Marissa left is because we knew her family was going to come here, and there was trash everywhere. I mean, 10 of those Cheesecake Factory little boxes just thrown under the bed, that kind of stuff. But I couldn't clean up because then I was doing her job. So then at that point, I said, hey, things weren't like this in the beginning, what changed? And she made the comment, essentially, well, she was never enjoyed any of it. She did it because she didn't want to lose me. And that comment just, it crushed me. Sorry. So she started counseling, solo counseling, did that for a while, and nothing changed. It's just nothing changed. No, let me make this clear. Not everything was awful. She was wonderful. Wonderful with my son. I couldn't ask for anything more. But at this point, things were bad. So that's when I reached out to Ashley. We had a past, and I'm not. Let me make this clear. What I'm not saying is any of this justified what I did, but there is more to the story. And it's easy for the other person to try to paint me and Ashley out. And she's the one who's abandoned her stepchild, who's supposed to get him on Saturday, and text on Wednesday to say, nope, can't do that. So, but I'll tell more in the upcoming days.
Hey everyone, so this is the third part in a series where I talk about what it's like to be a mistress and then what it's like to be the pregnant mistress and dealing with the separation and impending divorce of the father of my child. So this video is in response to another video that Marissa had uploaded to TikTok where she had found some of my clothes here at the house when she came to move her things out. And a lot of questions I got asked about why my things were here. I already uploaded pictures of the state of the house when I got here. Obviously it was trashed. She'd been experiencing some mental health stuff for quite a while, I guess, prior to everything kind of happening, and then she left really quickly. So I came to clean the house for Bill, and been living 5.5 hours away in North Carolina. So I came here, spent 2 weeks cleaning, and that's why my things were here. When she got here, there were some things that she had found and decided to put on the couch and put on TikTok. I did not do it to hurt her. I did not leave my things out. There was no flaunting or anything like that. Obviously, I felt horrible about the whole situation, and the last thing I wanted was for that to happen. So, but it did. I spent 2 weeks cleaning to save her from having to be embarrassed in front of her family for the state of everything, and I wanted to kind of try to make the process as easy and painless as possible for her. Maybe that sounds presumptuous of me, and maybe it was. I truly wasn't trying to be unkind, and I understand that in some respects, to a lot of people, intentions don't matter. But in this case, I really do feel like my intentions mattered. So that's why my things were here, and unfortunately, that's why she found them. My next video is just going to be kind of delving into the part about where Marissa and Bill started working on their marriage, what I knew about it, what I didn't know about it, and my take on everything.
Hey everyone, I wanted to come on here, and I'm going to be going back and telling some of the story from essentially me contacting Ashley and what kind of led up to that. I've gone over a lot of that in my last video, but before I get into all that, I did want to address just a few things that have come up. First, about the step kiddo. I went back and watched one of Marissa's videos where essentially she said she would never willingly not have a relationship with stepchild. I want to make this abundantly clear, and I understand most people don't like me, don't believe me, that's fine. I never, ever have stopped her from seeing Zach. I never wanted that. She was supposed to get him last Saturday. On that Wednesday, she texted me and said basically she would not be taking him. She didn't want him. And so at that point, moving forward, I'm not going to allow a relationship going forward simply because that's not fair to Zach. I'm not going to have this back and forth. It's one thing if something came up, I could get that. That's fine. Wouldn't be an issue. Sometimes life comes up. That's not this case. This is just to be manipulative, which, hey, more power to her. I guess if she wants to use that as leverage, fine. If you guys want to justify that and say she's cool to do that because I had an affair, awesome. That's your moral judgment. I can't change that. One other thing I want to address is this idea that somehow I feel that what I did was okay. Having an affair isn't okay. What I did was wrong. I don't understand why that statement keeps getting made. But when the other person hasn't told the whole story, I think there's just a lot there that's been left out, and that's what I'm doing here. The next thing I wanted to address is obviously the house being filthy. Clearly, the question was kind of brought up of, why didn't you clean it? And that was a reoccurring issue throughout our entire relationship because I wasn't allowed to without it turning into a fight. So the dishes would stack up. If I did them, I was taking her job. I did it for me versus to have a clean fork. And so the same thing with the bedrooms. You know, I'm not even, obviously I could go, well, you know, she stayed at home, I worked, went to school. We had Zach half the time, and other than that, she didn't really do much. But I still would have happily done all that, except for I couldn't without it turning into a fight, without it turning into just another issue. And so usually what would happen is the house would get trashed terribly, as you saw. I'd have to wait till she visited her mom, clean the house on the 2 days she was gone. She would come back, and then, you know, I would have to get yelled at, or not yelled, let me make this, not yelled, but manipulated and gaslit into, why did I clean the house? How could I do this? Now she doesn't know where the trash that was on the floor is. It was a reoccurring issue, time and again. One other thing that's been asked a bunch of times is essentially if weight played a factor in me having an affair, and it didn't. It really didn't. I never had anything to say about her weight except for when she wanted to have a kid, just for safety stuff. I said, hey, you know, I think it'd be best if you lost a little weight. Still would have happily had a child. We tried for a long time. It just didn't happen for whatever reason. But, you know, the weight, I think, played a role in the intimacy issues, but that's not, it didn't play a role in me. I just think for self-esteem reasons, it played a role for her. I also think there were other factors there. So leading up to me reaching back out to Ashley, essentially the final straws were, it was the new year. At this point, we hadn't been intimate in a normal way since early in July. One time at Thanksgiving where she had to get intoxicated, and it was just an awful experience. It was awful for a lot of reasons, and it really crushed my self-esteem, that, you know, this person that I loved always seemed to have to get liquored up to feel comfortable in that way. And like I said before, I tried for years to do couples counseling. I begged because intimacy was important to me. I understand you guys are going to say, why didn't you leave? Once again, I'm just going to respond the same way. I loved her. I didn't want to break up. I wanted to fix the issue. And eventually, I just realized she was never going to. She had been in therapy a year. There had been no changes as far as that went. The comment that when we were more intimate regularly and in more like adventurous ways, that basically she did it to not lose me, that she never enjoyed it, that really, really crushed me, and it grossed me out too. Consent is so important. And so then it really just caused a lot of issues. And then on January 1st, she posted this. I'm just going to read it real quick. It's 2024. I am safe. I am loved. I am important. That's what my husband tells me, but it's not what I tell myself. I'm not going to mention the specifics over my inner dialogue, but it's brutal, according to my husband and my therapist. And so hearing that she felt loved, she felt safe, cared for, and she still couldn't reach out to me in the ways that I wanted, I was done in a lot of ways. So at that point, I began having an affair with Ashley. That happened in early January. I don't remember the exact dates, and it doesn't really matter. So that went on for a few months, and at this point, tomorrow, I'm gonna tell kind of the backstory of the whole saga leading up to the driveway issue. There's still a lot of details there that were just left out because that's who she is. With all due respect, guys, I get I'm awful, but if you don't see that somebody who abandoned her stepchild after being on here crying that she would never leave him, who also cheated and lied about something happening so I wouldn't question the details there, she's very good at making it so that she's just good at manipulating. And I understand you're not, 90% of people won't believe me. I get that. I also understand. I remind so many of you all of your cheating ex, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm not your ex. I'm Marissa's ex, and she's left out a lot of details.
Hey everyone, I hope you're having a good Thursday. For those of you who don't know, this is part 4 in a series where I talk about being pregnant by a married man. A lot of personal private information was put out on TikTok by the wife, so this is just me giving my side of the story, some context and background, some things that were left out. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I did and didn't know about Marissa and Bill working on repairing their marriage. But before I go into that, I'm just going to answer a couple of commonly asked questions and just respond to some of the comments I've been getting in my videos. The first comment or question I've been asked is, why would I take pictures of the house when I got here to clean it? And why would I record our interaction in the driveway? So I took pictures of the house because this is a rented property. And when I got here to clean it, there was some damage done to the property. So I took pictures for the landlord. Obviously, she was leaving, so the lease was changing, and things like that. So it was just for legal purposes. I put the pictures on TikTok because I was asked quite frequently why my things were here at the house when she came to move her things out. And only a few of my things were here, and they were put away. However, they got dumped on the couch, and I basically got called out for it. So I lived 5.5 hours away. I came here to clean the house. That's why I was here. The second thing, the driveway. Why did I record that conversation? Well, obviously I didn't know her, and I knew I was giving her bad news, and I didn't know how the conversation was going to go. So I recorded it for my own personal safety. The reason the audio went on TikTok was a rebuttal to her claiming that I cornered her in the driveway and I was horrifically mean and just awful, which is not true. Yes, I was giving her information that was awful, which I acknowledged, and I still acknowledge, but I was not trying to be mean to her. The other thing is, you're never going to hear me say that what I did was right, that I'm proud of what I did, or I'm happy about it, or I'm happy I hurt people. You'll never hear me say that. What I will say is that I made the decisions I made out of love. I made the decisions I made in a very emotional way, obviously. It's easy to say that you should make all of your choices based on logic and use your head and not your heart, but it's easier said than done. So getting into it, what I did and didn't know about Marissa and Bill trying to reconcile. Making an incredibly long story short, I didn't know any of it until about 3 weeks ago. Obviously, there's a whole lot of this story that Bill has to tell, but I'll just say what I know, which is that they were obviously sleeping together, and it was being concealed from me, which nobody's right in that situation, obviously. Obviously, I didn't go into this situation believing that their marriage was salvageable or that that's even what he wanted. The truth is that everything got really messy and everybody got really hurt.
Hey guys, to give you some updates and some things that have been going on behind the scenes. Yesterday, I went out to North Carolina because me and Marissa had agreed to things as we've been trying to kind of move through this divorce before she decided to do what Marissa tends to do when things get hard, which is just to ignore everything and say, I want to move on, which is BS. If you want to move on, you have to actually be an adult. You have to deal with things. You have to get divorced. But that's actually not in her best interest because she has all kinds of benefits through me. Because I'm medically retired from the Navy. So all these things that will go away, essentially. And so we were making progress, and then she decided, oops, no, wait, hold on, this is about to happen, and has just stopped. So anyway, like I said, we had made some agreements, which she decided, I guess, she was no longer going to follow through with, whatever the case was. So I filed a small claims lawsuit there in North Carolina that'll take place in mid-October. I know a lot of people that are here are also there, so you know, if you're somebody in Friday before 6 p.m., you guys can let her know. But after that, don't keep saying it, because I'm sure at that point 20 people have told her, so I'm sure she got the point. She'll also get paperwork, but this way she also knows it's coming. I really don't. She'll be served, so I just don't want to scare her when a sheriff shows up there. She's going to be a little high-strung, I guess is the word. So that's one of the updates. The other update, when I was out there, I had the displeasure. I guess would the word I'll use here, to meet one of the guys she had cheated on me with. Just regular old Joe, I guess. I felt bad for the guy because, yeah, she kind of just ghosted him, but that's her. So, unfortunately for him, and you guys, a lot of people have mentioned it previously for our situation, the alienation of affection laws there in North Carolina. He's going to be getting served with that, and she will as well, but not in the same capacity. She doesn't get sued in that, so, but she will get like subpoenaed because she has information, that kind of stuff. So those are the biggest updates, I think, of things that have kind of gone on. Tomorrow I am going to provide the where I was at in the story, which was at this point, me and Ashley had begun seeing each other, and kind of leading up to the whole driveway saga. So I am going to update that. Just yesterday, it's a long drive back and forth, so I was pretty busy yesterday. Trying to think. Oh, one other thing, and this is just a little behind the scenes as well. One thing, I guess, that really chapped my butt, so to speak, was obviously, I said previously how Marissa was supposed to take Zach and then decided not to and everything. Her mom obviously is a well-off real estate agent. More power to her. But the week before, obviously, I had seen like her page and everything, but the just days after Marissa said what she did, or how she was going to be handling the Zach situation, she updated it to have 3 grandkids versus 4, and it's just so crappy. It's just so awful. But that's her right. I understand, she's super Christian woman, and she lives in the South, and there's a lot of judgment sometimes that go along there, and that's not all Christians by any stretch. I'm not that person. Your girl is, but not me. So that one kind of hurt. But once again, that's her right. She gets to do what she wants. So those are the main things I want to talk about today. So tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to update the story of kind of where we're at. And then one other thing I'm going to be doing is, when I was in the Navy, I was on submarines. I have a few random funny stories from that I'm going to tell. I was on the USS Newport News. So I was on that. We actually got hit by an oil tanker, so I'll tell that story. It was pretty fun / scary, I guess, at the time. But being on a sub is a different environment. So just being able to lighten up the mood sometimes and tell some other stories. I know Ashley as well is going to be telling some of her past stories as well. She's lived a pretty full life. So, all right, guys. As always, I appreciate all the kind words, other words. Really, I don't live in an echo chamber. The only comments that I delete are ones that are way past the line of where we're threatening physical harm, that kind of stuff. That won't be tolerated. But otherwise, I get it, because I had an affair and that was wrong. And some people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she had an affair. It just, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter that she abandoned her stepchild. It doesn't matter that she wanted me to make Ashley get a procedure to not have a baby. So that's her moral compass. We all have different ones. So, all right, guys. I hope everybody has a great Friday night. Also, probably maybe Sunday we're gonna go live. Not really sure what we're gonna do yet, but obviously I expect a lot of engagement there. Once again, feel free to hop in, say what you want, as long as it's not threatening. It'll be fine. So, all right. Hey everyone, I'm going to jump right back into the story here. So at this point, it was February. Me and Ashley had entered into our affair, and I checked out of my marriage and all in any way that basically somebody can. So some people have said before, and it's a valid question, why didn't I break up with Marissa? And so it's not quite accurate. Obviously, Marissa said it before that she's kind of only told some of the details, and very often for very specific reasons, so that people don't know the whole story, or so it makes me look worse or whatever. There's just a lot there. So anyway, I had broken up with her. It was late February, and I had gone to Marissa and told her that I was done, that, that basically at this point it had been since July since we had been romantically intimate. There was something that happened on Thanksgiving, but it had been since July. And, the one time we had tried, it was just, she was drunk and it was awful. So I was done, and she kind of reacted how I figured she was going to. She cried, begged, pleaded, and just had a full-on panic attack, which I'm not blaming her for. That's something that she's dealt with a lot, and so anyway, one of the things that I've done very poorly throughout this whole situation is just not being able to kind of stick to what I know is how things should get handled. So she begged me to stay and that things would change. And I knew they wouldn't, because they never had. The only time things briefly changed was years before, when she wanted me to leave Ashley, and things kind of got a little better at that point because she felt like there was some competition. And so I knew it was never going to change. But I do care and love Marissa, so I said, okay, I'll stay. And I tried again, probably about a week later, and once again, same thing. I crumbled again. So then at that point, I was talking with Ashley, and basically she wasn't mad or anything like that, but the question was kind of posed, well, how does this happen where one, I don't crumble, two, Marissa actually believes that things aren't reconcilable. So we talked about it, and so Ashley was going to go tell Marissa that we had been having an affair and that she was pregnant, and she did at that point. So at that point, things kind of exploded. That's kind of when the TikToks begun, a day later, something like that. And that's kind of the lead up from me beginning my affair to Marissa left the same day that Ashley came and talked to her. So the next part of the story that I'll get into in a couple of days is me and Marissa reconciling, and what the purpose was initially, and just what those 6 months really looked like. I think there was a lot there that kind of for obvious reasons, wasn't documented, and then when it was kind of zoomed forward quite a bit. So I'll talk about that, and then, yeah, that's it. So I hope everybody has a great day, and as always, I look forward to seeing the comments. Some of them are funny. Once again, you guys can say whatever you like, as long as it's not violent or threatening. So have a great day. Goodbye.
Hey everyone, I hope you're having a good day. This video is a reply to some videos that were made about my posts, and a reply / rebuttal to some frequent comments that I've been getting and some commonly asked questions. So I guess if we're going to talk about it, which I was planning to, by the way, but since we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. So yes, I do have 2 other daughters. I have an 18-year-old that I had when I was 18. She's in college right now, doing great. We have a good relationship. Obviously, I didn't have custody of her when I was in prison. However, I've always had a good relationship with her and maintained contact throughout her life while also having custody. I do have another daughter. She's in Texas with her paternal grandmother and her father. I maintain as much contact as I'm allowed by her grandmother. I send cards, letters, gifts. I never forget her birthday or Christmas or anything like that. Obviously, I wish I had more of a relationship with her. It's a little difficult because she's in Texas. It's expensive to keep going back and forth to court, and it's also really hard when no matter what the court order is, it's not being abided by. I do have a history of opiate addiction that started when I was 21, and although I had periods of sobriety in between, my longest period of sobriety has been since I was 31, so I've been clean now for 6 years. Yes, there was a period of time where I was a SW. That was a fairly short period of time when I was in the depths of my addiction. And yes, Bill and I have a long history. When he and I met, I had no idea that he was married. That's when I fell in love with him. And yes, we have had a very back and forth, on and off relationship ever since. I'm not condoning what I did. I'm not saying that I haven't made mistakes and that people haven't gotten hurt along the way. Obviously they have, and I am truly sorry for it. Remember, tears don't always roll when the cameras are. Moving on to some comments that I've gotten frequently. It's been said several times, how you get him's how you're going to lose him, and once a cheater, always a cheater, and home wrecker, and just calling me names and stuff like that. It's just constantly being said, and it doesn't need to be. I get it. You know, women out there obviously have been severely traumatized by cheating and stuff like that, so I get that I'm an easy target for that. I am not your husband's mistress. I don't see this situation as a her versus me, or, you know, somebody's a winner and somebody's a loser. That's just not how it works. In this situation, everybody's hearts got broken. And of course, if I could do things over, I would do some things differently. But time just doesn't work that way. It only runs one direction. And we're here, and this is now. And if she's allowed to talk about her healing journey, which is fine, she can do that, then I'm allowed to explain my perspective on things. I understand that she didn't owe me any allegiance, and that, you know, if she wants to go to hotels with her husband while I'm at home making dinner pregnant with this child, then, you know, that's absolutely fine. She can do that. However, you can't claim the moral high ground and that you're on some healing journey when you're turning around and doing the exact same thing that was just done to you. I never sat here and tried to justify my choices. I never said that I didn't make mistakes. The only thing I ever said was that my choices were not made with malicious intents. Now, Am I naive to believe some of the things I believed? Absolutely. Was I blinded by my feelings? Completely. That's all I got for today, guys. My next video will go more into some of my past, and we'll talk more about what kind of happens next.
Hey TikTok, so I'm just going to pick up the story right where we left off. At this point, Marissa knew that I had had an affair. I worked on submarines, so sometimes my communication could be a little hard. By the time I got home that day, she was gone already. At that point, our communication, well, let me back up. That day, she texted me and essentially asked if she could fix things. And I said no, because at this point, I had tried for 2 years. She didn't care, so I didn't really want to hear about her newest miracle fix that was going to fix our problem. I had done that for years, and I really didn't care, frankly. So anyway, our communication at that point was really limited. It was cordial, respectful, but that was it. Primarily, she wanted to set up visitation with Zach. Awesome. I always tried to facilitate that so that she could see him, that kind of stuff. At that point, I think it was about 3 weeks later when she came and got her stuff from the house, got all her stuff. Then after that, we were texting a little bit more, and she essentially said, well, I want to talk, so why don't we get a hotel room and, just kind of talk about what led up to this and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, I was down with that idea. Having been in a marriage where the whole time it was next to impossible to get my spouse to want me physically, to all of a sudden have her saying, hey, let's have a clandestine meeting, frankly was an ego boost, and I liked that idea quite a bit. So we did that. We went to a hotel room. Obviously things happened, and so at that point, after everything, when we were still there, she said, well, hey, is there any way we can fix things? And as I've said before, I fold like a cheap suit in some of these situations. So at that point, I didn't think there was any chance of real change from her at all. But I like the idea of being able to be with the person who for years wouldn't look at me twice. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Why not? Let's give it a shot. Because in my opinion, I did not believe at all that things could change or would change. But I was willing to at least give it a shot. I once again, did not think it would happen, and I basically said as much. I said, hey, I think this is a uphill battle, and I'm not sure even if you make changes that I'm going to trust that they're permanent, because earlier on, very early on, there were some brief changes, and when I had brought it up kind of like, hey, things used to be really good, she basically said, well, I was afraid of losing you. Basically, most of that stuff I don't want to do, and for me, I just wanted to be intimate with my wife. So I was down with that, and so the next parts of the story will kind of be part 2 and part 3 of what those 6 months were like, because it was really 2 parts. It was kind of like a very early, month and a half, and then the other part, and yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope you're having a good day. This video is going to be kind of short. This is just going to be a reply to some commonly asked questions about some videos that have been put out there, some content about my past, as well as the current situation I'm in. First, I'm sorry, I'm looking kind of rough today. I'm not feeling great. I'm super nauseous for some reason. Thank you to everyone who's asked about my pregnancy. Overall, it's going good. I am high risk at this point, but there's no reason to expect anything less than a healthy baby girl. Of course, I'm doing my best to take care of myself and my baby. Well, life is still lifey. Some questions I got were, what did I go to prison for? I went to prison for larceny as well as possession of a controlled substance and prescription fraud. I'll be the first one to say that my life has been filled with a lot of bad choices, a lot of mistakes, but I am proud of my sobriety and I am proud of where I am now and all the things that I have overcome. Me and my twin sister were born to our mother when she was 17 years old. Our father was an alcoholic. She gave us up when we were 18 months old to our maternal grandmother, and we had a pretty rough childhood. Our maternal grandmother died when we were 12. Our maternal grandfather was an over-the-road truck driver, so we largely raised ourselves until we were emancipated at 17. And then, like I said, I was with my first boyfriend who became my husband. He is the father of my oldest daughter. That relationship was not a great one, and we ended up separating when my oldest daughter was 2.5, and divorcing later on. I think she was 7. I did get my nursing degree in 2009, and I worked as a nurse until I couldn't anymore because of my opiate addiction. Once I couldn't work as a nurse any longer, I started working as a machinist in factories, and now I have a lot of experience with large production machinery that makes like food grade plastics and paper goods and stuff like that. I just want to say that I am laying in my own bed, that this is not someone else's bed. The other thing I want to say, and a lot of people have said, that I'm not sorry, that I don't care who I hurt and all of this, and that's just simply not true. I'm not, like I said before, the tears kind of roll when the cameras aren't, but I am very sorry for having hurt Marissa, and I do know what it feels like to be cheated on. I know how much that hurts, and I am really sorry. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to change what's already happened. Time only runs one way, but I am truly sorry, and I can only kind of go from here and try to do better and be better. The other thing that's been said a lot recently that I really need to address is whether or not I am safe. I am safe. I don't use the term abuse or abuser lightly, and I don't think anyone else should either, obviously. But I appreciate everyone's concern. However, I am safe. Bill is not a violent man by any means. I hope that's answered some questions and given you a little backstory and insight. I will continue to, obviously when I feel better, post some videos just kind of talking about my past and my recovery and stuff like that. So I appreciate everybody kind of tuning in, and I hope everyone has a good night.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as fast as 1 week.